Channel 6 News at 6.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Imani Payne. Chris and Leslie have the night off. Tonight we're learning more about the victims killed in the nation's latest mass shooting in West Texas. They ranged in age from 15 to 58. 7 people were killed and more than 20 were injured. Channel 6's Barry Roy and Maria Aguilera are in Odessa tonight with more on how the community is dealing with the tragedy and what police are saying about the shooting now. We begin our team coverage tonight with Maria, who has new details on what led up to this mass shooting. Maria.
Imani, authorities say this mass shooting was not unique compared to previous ones, and they do say that there are some signs that people should be on the lookout for, which the gunman displayed leading up to the attack. Today, earlier this morning, Odessa and FBI held a news conference earlier today. They said the shooter made calls to both agencies before and during the shooting. Authorities say he was rambling, but no threats were made. He also called 911 when the shooting began and identified himself as the gunman. Special Agent Christopher Combs with the FBI says the shooter was let go from his job earlier that day, but he made it clear that when he showed up to work, he was already enraged and in a distressed mental state. So they don't believe his firing was the cause. Combs said last year there were 27 major active shooters in this country, which is about every 2 weeks. And he says there may be a way to prevent that. He stressed the importance of reporting changes in people's behavior that they believe may be dangerous.
The most important characteristics where people can help us is this spiraling downward path that these individuals have, where they lose mental capacity, they become more mentally challenged. And there's a way to break that path. I really do believe that, by people who see it.
And there is still no clear motive on what led the gunman to kill 7 people and injure 25 others on Saturday. But for now, reporting live in Odessa, Maria Aguilera, Channel 6 News.
Thank you, Maria. Continuing our team coverage is Channel 6's Barry Roy, also in Odessa tonight, with more on how the people there are adjusting to a new normal that they never wanted to be their reality. Barry.
Yeah, good evening to you, Imani. These towns are separated by just a mere 24 miles, and now these two West Texas neighbors, well, now they share the same terrible tragedy. Now, this all began on Saturday when 7 people were killed, and more than 20 others were injured. Now, both cities today, the mood is hard to describe. There is a sense of just getting through the day here and making it to the end for some. Now, I did speak to one man. He did not want to appear on camera, but he says he knows so many people in this town, and this shooting, well, it's hit really close to home.
As a matter of fact, where the shooter started up in 42nd Street, it was one of my nieces working in one of them restaurants. She just being dropped off. And my brother called me and said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "I don't know. You tell me." I was eating in La Hacienda, I wouldn't even finish up eating, so I was on my way out there when I seen this coming. I said, "Oh, crap. It's real."
Now, Imani, it's a real surreal feeling being in this town, walking up and down the streets and talking to the folks here. One man I spoke to said that this is just completely something he never thought would happen. He sees it on the news all the time, but he never thought this would happen in his own backyard. Reporting live in Odessa, Barry Roy, Channel 6 News.
Thank you, Barry. The parents of the youngest victim injured in that shooting are speaking out about their terrifying encounter in Odessa. 17-month-old Anderson Davis was sitting in the car with her parents and twin brother when gunfire rang out. Her mother, Kelby Davis, says she jumped into the back seat to protect the twins when she noticed a bullet in the car window.
So as I was climbing over, I saw a bullet hole, and I just thought I have to cover up both of these babies. So the way I was climbing over, I saw our son first and didn't even think about anything being wrong. And when I looked over at our daughter, she was just covered in blood, like so much blood. I couldn't even tell where she'd been hit.
Anderson was taken to the hospital where she received surgery for her injuries and is expected to make a full recovery.
It's awesome. She had surgery this morning on her mouth and had her lips sewn up, her tongue sewn together, and some of her teeth kind of worked on and examined, and then the shrapnel removed from her chest. There's a small piece of shrapnel they can't get, and that's fine, and a little bit of shrapnel in her face that's not worth going in to get, but they got what they could, and they were amazing and took great care of her.
We're glad she's doing okay. Tonight, Anderson is back home safe and sound with her family. You can continue to follow this story and more on our mobile app or on our website. That's kcentv.com. Well, it's time now for our first check of our weather. Chief Meteorologist Andy Anderson is standing by with the details. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Liberty. Another hot one for us here in Central Texas, with highs getting into the upper 90s, close to 100 degrees in most cases. And look at the pink line here down in the Gulf waters. That's the connotation I use to outline a little disturbance down in the Gulf of Mexico, a little tropical in nature. It's moving from the east to the west and going to be making its way across deep South Texas in the next couple of days. It's going to turn those winds around to the east for us and maybe bring us a little bit of rain, but it looks like most of the rain is going to stay down south of Corpus Christi in the days to come with that system going on. 94 now at Hillsboro, 96 in Waco and in Killeen, 97 Temple and Marlin, 95 in Mejia and Gatesville right now. Lampasas is reporting 94 degrees overnight tonight. Skies will be clear. Humidity values are a little bit lower thanks to breezes coming in out of the east and northeast. That's dry air, so humidity values will be much more comfortable tonight, but it's still going to be very warm. Even after the sun goes down, we're down only into the low 80s. We'll have complete details on a very hot Tuesday. Back to work tomorrow, coming up a little later in the news, Amani.
All right, thanks, Andy. A 15-year-old Carolyn girl at the center of an Amber Alert has been found. Irene Nunez and her stepfather, Kevin Caceres, were found today in Beaumont. Caceres was taken into custody and will be charged with kidnapping. Irene's family has been notified and arrangements are being made to release her into their custody.
You could see he was trying to fire some more shots and would probably hit Uncle Jim. But the other police officer had the cylinder where it wouldn't spin, and he couldn't pull the trigger.
Still to come, you've seen the photo, but have you heard the story? One local man's connection to Jim Lavelle, the man handcuffed to Lee Harvey Oswald. Stick with us. Welcome back. It's been more than 50 years since JFK's killer Lee Harvey Oswald was shot and killed in Dallas. The entire moment was caught on camera, and as Channel 6's Cole Johnson shows us, there is a major local connection to the historic event. Cole.
Imani, if you take a look at the photo, you see Oswald handcuffed to Jim Lavelle. Lavelle died last week after living to his 99th birthday. Today we sat down with his nephew Lurie, who lives outside of Belton, and gave him a chance to share his uncle's story.
Dallas, November 1963. President John F. Kennedy's killer Lee Harvey Oswald is being escorted by police when he's shot and killed by Jack Ruby.
He's been shot. He's been shot.
But this isn't a story about Oswald. It's about the guy who's handcuffed to him, Jim Lavelle.
He called Ruby USOB right when he did it, and he was trying to pull Oswald behind him, but it happened so fast.
His nephew Lurie remembers when he saw the shooting.
I never realized that his life was that much in danger until I saw that on television.
It was one of many fascinating stories Jim had throughout his career.
You could see he was trying to fire some more shots and would probably hit Uncle Jim, but the other police officer had the cylinder where it wouldn't spin, and he couldn't pull the trigger.
Before the shooting, Lurie says Jim had an uneasy feeling and wanted to take Oswald out of the building a different way.
The captain said, well, I already promised those blankety-blank reporters that I'd bring him out through the basement, and they were set up to record and everything, and I'll catch hell if I don't bring him out that way.
Lurie and his family remember the details of the story well, because over Jim's 99 years, his memory never faded.
It was almost like a tape recorder. It was just the same story over and over without much in the way any changes.
While we remember Jim from the photo, his family remembers him from a few others.
He had a way of becoming real close to people. He was still fun to be around because he would bail you out of whatever thing he got you into.
And despite his death, his memory will live on in the history books and the family photo album.
Now the family says the funeral for Jim is set for this Saturday. Imani.
Neat story there. All right, thanks, Cole. Well, weather is next. Andy, are there any new burn bans in our area?
Well, yeah, we do have a couple of new burn bans up. Dry conditions continue to be the big problem for us, just like every year at this time. We've had some nice little rains lately, and that has improved conditions a bit out to the west of us, but most of